Lihao's arrival at the Ancestral Hall marked a quiet yet significant moment. As he followed his father through the skies to the majestic hall that stood as a testament to their family's thousand-year legacy, the weight of history hung in the air. Upon reaching the courtyard, Lihao eagerly greeted his uncle, Li Qingzheng, whose cheerful demeanor softened the solemn atmosphere. However, as they discussed a chess match, the tension between them subtly shifted when Li Tiangang joined the conversation, his respect for Qingzheng palpable. The interaction between the family members hinted at deeper currents of loyalty and unspoken words, particularly as Lihao, caught between playfulness and formality, caught a glimpse of the ever-present expectations surrounding him. The chapter gently explores the weight of family ties, revealing a conflict not only of lineage, but also of personal choices, as Lihao navigates the complexities of his legacy amidst those who shape it. In a world where time and emotion intertwine, Li Tiangang, now a battle-hardened middle-aged man, reflects on the years of struggle and sacrifice. His son, Lihao, notices the transformation from the youthful figure he once knew, his father's face now weathered with a beard, shaped by warfare and the harshness of frontier life. Li Tiangang's words carry a deep understanding of the human condition, that while demons may live on in eternal slumber, humans, driven by their emotions, inevitably endure the pain of war, heroism, and longing, shortening their lifespans with each new battle. Yet he understands that living for centuries without stirring the world around you would be too easy, too detached. As he shares a quiet moment with Li Qingzheng, an elder figure, it becomes clear that their journey isn't just about survival, but about the sacrifices required to protect what matters. With the weight of fatherhood and a battle-ready heart, Li Tiangang reveals a change in focus. The true dragon matter, a crucial subject that could shape their fate. It's a reminder that even in the most intimate of family bonds, the world outside remains as dangerous and unpredictable as ever, with promises broken and destinies forged in the fires of conflict. Li Qingzheng, with a knowing smile, glanced at Lihao beside him, acknowledging the purpose of their visit. "Haoer's talent is unmatched, even surpassing your ninth uncle," he said, his voice filled with quiet pride. "He's the fastest to reach the 15 Li realm in our family's history, breaking records like never before." He paused, a glimmer of nostalgia in his eyes as he added, "While Zhenya became the true dragon of his generation, his untimely death left a void. Now, Haoer stands as the brightest star in his generation, leagues ahead of anyone else." Li Tiangang's face softened with a proud smile, filled with the arrogance that came with having such an exceptional son. They approached the kneeling mats, where father and son bowed in respect to the family's ancestors. As they paid homage, the memorial tablets shimmered, some flickering faintly with divine souls, others dim and devoid of presence. Lihao's gaze lingered on one particular table, this ninth uncle's, where the name Li Junye was engraved. It stood next to a noble title and military rank, but curiously, no divine soul hovered above it. The site felt oddly empty. The memorial tablets of noble families were inscribed with not only their titles and military ranks, but often included praises or poems showcasing their grandeur. In contrast, a common family's tablet was much simpler, usually marked with a phrase like "Spirit Tablets of all past ancestors" to honor all forebears in one sweep. However, as time passed, many commoners lost their family records, leaving them to accept their fate without much history to hold on to. Only the noble families managed to preserve detailed genealogies, with each ancestor's achievements and titles clearly documented. In this chapter, Li Tiangang, a young warrior recently returned from fighting demons, encounters his third uncle, Li Xuanyin. The uncle, still in his prime and radiant like jade, holds a deep personal hatred for demons, as one had killed his beloved. The family, despite many sacrifices, was trapped by a river of spirits, unable to retrieve the lost souls of those who died in battle. The scene sets the stage for Li Tiangang's emotional reflection on the price of honor and the spirits of the fallen, with a strong, lingering sense of loss and unresolved tension. Li Xuanyin's voice cut through the tension. "Where's she? Why didn't you bring her?" His question, though soft, carried a weight. Li Tiangang's response was brief yet heavy. "She's gone." The word hung in the air as Li Xuanyin's thoughts froze momentarily. Before he could probe further, his eyes landed on Lihao, who stood quietly by his side. With a sudden change in tone, Li Xuanyin whispered, "Did she leave?" Tiangang's answer was just as cold, "Yes." A flash of regret crossed Li Xuanyin's face. He had admired her, and the bond they'd shared was undeniable. Yet before he could linger on the memory, his father's sharp voice cut in from above, scolding him for wasting time. A sigh escaped Li Xuanyin as he turned sheepishly toward his father, offering an awkward smile. "Dad, can't you cut me some slack? Tiangang and his son are still here." The response was quick and stern, filled with a father's frustration. You want me to kick you, don't you? Each time we awaken, energy is spent, and here you are wasting it for nothing. Li Xuanyan lowered his head in defeat, a hurt expression crossing his face. Watching this exchange, Lihao couldn't help but feel bewildered. The man who had once been a figure of dignity had been reduced to the subject of a scolding. The scene left more than just a bitter taste, it stirred something deeper in the air. In the midst of the Li family's turbulent legacy, an eventful gathering reveals the clash between generations and the weight of broken oaths. Amidst scolding and familial tension, a great-grandfather, seemingly full of fire and authority, is reprimanded by an elder's ghostly presence, prompting a reluctant apology to his grandson. The Li family's deep history, stretching over 3,000 years, becomes the backdrop for a tale of pride, legacy, and internal strife. As the family navigates its long-standing position in the empire, the weight of ancestral connections stirs conflicting emotions and ambitions. Amongst this, Lihao's thoughts drift to a light-hearted distraction, contemplating the energy-consuming ritual of summoning ancestral spirits and wishing for a simpler, lighter connection, perhaps even to introduce them to a game of mahjong. Despite the chaotic family dynamics, the atmosphere is thick with a sense of deep-rooted tradition, yet underlined by a momentary comic relief, as Lihao contemplates the serious burden of their legacy. Lihao's world is a whirlwind of tension, secrets, and a battle for the true dragon titan. The Empire's political tides crash as he faces assassination attempts, hidden agendas, and an intricate trial that could decide his future. In the midst of it all, Lihao's inheritance is entangled with ancient oaths, twisted alliances, and the haunting choices of his bloodline. As the Autumn Summit approaches, where martial prowess and legacy will collide, his path to power becomes less about strength and more about what he's willing to sacrifice. The shadows of betrayal linger, and as broken promises shatter his sense of self, Lihao must choose between following the path laid out for him or forging a new destiny with the weight of his ancestors' expectations on his shoulders. In the end, nothing is as it seems. What will he hold on to, and what will he let go? The breaking of a spiritual sword marks the end of an era, but a new one is waiting to begin. The truth is as fractured as the blade in his grip, and Lihao's choices will carve the future one decision at a time. Lihao, witnessing the moment, bowed deeply in respect, following the example set before him. As the family left the Ancestral Hall, a distant ancestor's voice echoed, advising Li Tiangang to keep a vigilant eye on his son, warning him not to let Lihao become another casualty of past mistakes. Li Tiangang nodded solemnly, but the weight of these words lingered in the air. As they prepared to depart, Lihao expressed his desire to stay behind and keep Gao company for a while longer. His father hesitated, then refused, reminding him of the approaching True Dragon selection and the preparation required. Despite his natural talent, Lihao was told to focus on more than just his gifts, to avoid attracting unwanted rumors. Li Qingzheng, with a warm smile, reassured Li Tiangang, assuring him that Lihao's talents spoke for themselves and that the father and son deserved time together. Reluctantly, Lihao bid farewell, promising to visit Gao again. As the duo left, Li Qingzheng sat alone in the Ancestral Hall, his mind heavy with thoughts. Slowly, he turned his attention to the chessboard before him, moving a white piece and murmuring, "Your move," followed by a black piece as the quiet tension of the moment deepened. The True Dragon competition is fast approaching, with only 2 months to go. Li Tiangang delivers the news to He Jianlan, sparking excitement across the mansion. Though the participants had been mostly from Shuihua Courtyard, the sudden rise of Lihao from the mountain and river courtyard shakes things up. Xiao Yujing, from the Linglong Court, sneers, knowing that her adopted son, Li Yanzhao, stands no chance against Lihao's surprising prowess. Meanwhile, Lu Yuerong from Shuihua Courtyard, though prepared for the competition, seethes with frustration. In a desperate move, she sends for help from Qianfeng's master, hoping that the Buddha Lord, equal to the legendary Gantao Palace figure, might offer a solution. As the tension mounts, the stage is set for a battle where only the strongest will remain standing. Within the sacred Brahma Pure Land, hidden in the vast spirit realm of Mount Wuliang, life follows rigid rules dictated by the Buddha hierarchy. Vajras, powerful warriors, reside in the Vajra Heart Palace, striving to reach the state of Arhat, while Arhats enjoy the blessings of the Buddha Hall. The spirit realm is a place of unimaginable power, where the infinite Buddha Lord resides, surrounded by mist that gives the realm an ethereal, immortal quality. One day, a bodhisattva brings news of a letter from Qiankun Vajra's mother, Lu, urging haste. The infinite Buddha Lord, a giant of awe-inspiring presence, reads the letter with a mere glance, turning it to ash, revealing his wisdom. He speaks calmly, telling the bodhisattva that there's no need for worry. Qiankun Vajra, with his unmatched cultivation and the unique skills of his family, is destined for greatness. When he returns, the Buddha Lord will impart a sacred vow, granting him invincibility. The Bodhisattva breathes a sigh of relief, grateful for the Buddha's guidance. The infinite Buddha Lord's words echoed softly, as if the weight of a century of turmoil pressed upon him. For almost 100 years, conflict has ravaged Dayu, and its fate dwindles. We must intervene in the Divine General Mansion's competition for the True Dragon, though it is not a choice we take lightly. As chaos nears, we must descend from our mountain and ease the suffering of all. His voice held a quiet resolve. In the face of the Li family's True Dragon competition, rumors spread, prompting various factions to quietly stir. Within the Mountain and River courtyard, Li Tiangang shared a measured concern with his son, Lihao, as they discussed the two main elements of the competition: talent and character. Talent, though important, could not overshadow the necessity of a sound character. A rash, arrogant nature, no matter how skilled, could bring ruin rather than success. Whereas steadiness, tact, and composure marked a true leader. The competition also weighed connections and merits, but these were merely secondary, reflecting one's ability to forge relationships based on proper character. The road to power was not just paved with talent, but with the moral strength to wield it. Lihao understood talent might win him a place, but it was his character that would define his legacy. The rising tensions and high stakes were more than a contest for a title. They were a crucible for forging the true heirs of an empire. Lihao's journey is marked by harsh realities and profound internal struggles as he grapples with his family's legacy and the weight of power. His father, Li Tiangang, believes in his talent but laments his lack of discipline, particularly in terms of character, which could have propelled him beyond his current limitations. Despite their neglect, Lihao holds no resentment even when he was nearly killed in an assassination attempt, showing his concern for his father's safety instead. This bond between father and son, though fraught with emotional distance, highlights a critical theme. True leadership isn't just about power, but also about carrying the burdens of the family. The true test lies not in the ambition to rise above others, but in the sacrifice required to keep those around you grounded. As Lihao steps deeper into the political intrigue surrounding his family's role in the empire, he faces not only external enemies, but the turmoil of his own inner conflicts. The weight of broken promises, family loyalty, and the ghosts of past actions continues to haunt him as he moves toward his uncertain future, all under the shadow of the legendary True Dragon selection, where power and betrayal intermingle. He gazed at the determined, stubborn young man before him, a wave of emotions flooding his heart. An orphan, he understood the pain of being abandoned. Raised in a military camp, he had often watched other children laughing with their parents, feeling bitterness and envy stir within him. The nights were long with questions. Why had they given birth to him only to cast him aside? Why not raise him if they cared not for him? As time passed, this resentment faded as he considered that perhaps his unknown parents had their own burdens. But now, the boy before him, torn from his parents, seemed to harbor a deeper understanding than he had at that age. Wasn't he supposed to be filled with the same anger he once held? Lihao's calm demeanor bewildered him. When Li Tiangang asked about Lihao's resentment, the boy's response was simple and truthful: he had resentment. The honesty startled everyone, defying their expectations. Lihao had accepted this truth, and for the first time, the man before him realized that he was truly seeing the young master for who he was, not just as a symbol of his own past, but as someone far wiser than he had imagined. Lihao's words pierced the silence, heavy with years of unspoken resentment. It's not the absence of his father that stings, but the countless military reports sent back to the family without a single personal letter. 17 times he was left waiting. The hope of a letter from his father dashed each time, replaced with fabricated messages from the matron. The young boy's voice cracks with a raw honesty, a mix of disappointment and confusion. Why, when he had the chance, did his father never send a simple letter to check on his life, to know how he was truly doing? 14 years of absence may have distanced them, but it didn't erase the ache of a son yearning for connection, for a glimpse of care. His words hang in the air, a challenge to the father who, despite his political entanglements and duties, never considered the small, simple needs of the boy left behind. The unspoken truth is clear. Sometimes, it's not the grand gestures, but the smallest acts of love that matter the most. The atmosphere is tense as a father and son stand across from each other, their strained relationship finally coming to light. Li Tiangang, a seasoned warrior who has known no tears on the battlefield, now stands before his son, feeling the weight of his own neglect. His heart aches as he recalls the many years spent away, consumed by endless wars and forgotten letters. When Lihao, the son left behind, confronts him, the words hit hard. Was his absence all just an act? The realization strikes Li Tiangang with crushing clarity. He had failed as a father, leaving his son to fend for himself while he fought on distant fronts. The silent regret builds, and for the first time, he faces the truth of his neglect. As he pulls Lihao into his embrace, his voice cracks with the weight of apology. "I'm sorry, I've wronged you." Lihao's stoic heart softens, the unspoken bond between them finally stirring as they stand together in the aftermath of years lost to duty and distance. He sighed, his thoughts heavy. What good is an apology? Some things simply can't be fixed. Yet, deep down, he found a fragile sense of peace, accepting the inevitable. Life often required such quiet concessions. He could accept the apology, but the lingering regret would always remain. Perhaps that was the essence of life itself. Li Fu and Yuxuan stood silently, hearts aching for Lihao's wisdom and silent understanding. They regretted the countless losses from the border conflicts, both of soldiers and a child far away, who too bore the scars of those battles. After a long silence, Li Tiangang finally regained his composure, his voice breaking through the stillness. "I will make up for the 14 years I lost," he declared. "Whatever you want, I will ensure you have it." With a slight relief in his heart, Lihao responded, "Then I want more freedom." "Freedom?" Li Tiangang echoed, unsure. "No more demands to practice martial arts. No more interference in my life," Lihao explained. The weight of those words hit Li Tiangang hard. He remembered his son's usual habit carelessness in study and wasted talent. It was something he could not accept, yet he had just promised. To break that promise now? A struggle flickered in his eyes as he pondered. Even if Lihao abandoned cultivation for a time, his potential would not be destroyed. Perhaps he could allow this freedom after all. In a future where he inherits the Li family legacy and becomes the true dragon, Lihao carries the weight of his lineage on his shoulders, surrounded by those who place their hopes in him. Burdened with this responsibility, he finds solace in a promise made to his father, Li Tiangang. As he takes his leave to spend time with his fifth uncle, who has been lonely in his absence, he encounters the truth of the power struggle that awaits him. The true dragon selection is nearing, and Lihao must prepare for the trials ahead, knowing that his greatest rival is a family member. It's a journey of internal conflict and choices, as Lihao faces a path that could either bind him to his family's expectations or set him on a different course entirely. The weight of legacy presses against him, but he stands at the crossroads, where each step forward holds the power to shape his destiny. A cold light flickered in Lihao's eyes when Liu Rong was mentioned. He glanced at his father, conflicted, knowing that revealing the truth about the poison pill would stir things up, but still unsure how his father would react. Li Tiangang, not just a powerful general and lord, but also the minister of the Ministry of Punishment, was a man of influence, with his personal guard, the Fazi camp, known for their martial law enforcement. However, the woman in question held the title of First-Class National Madame, a rank that protected her from immediate action. Any attempt to arrest her would cause a massive uproar, potentially driving her son into hiding at Mount Wuliang, making it a troublesome situation to navigate. Despite Lihao's belief that his 15 Li realm power would discourage any serious competitors for the True Dragon Seed, he didn't want this outcome. If the other side fled to Mount Wuliang, it would become a complicated and uncertain conflict. Mount Wuliang, home to the infinite Buddha Lord, was second only to the real being in power, while the Great Yu dynasty was ruled by three key forces: Gantao Palace, Mount Wuliang, and Hanlin Hall. The last, Hanlin Hall, wielded political power through imperial decrees rather than martial force, capable of imposing laws that even the most powerful sects would not dare challenge. The game of power and influence was a high-stakes one, where loyalty, betrayal, and survival intertwined with every move. In the turbulent political currents of Qingzhou, Lihao finds himself thrust into a deadly game, one where the stakes are not just life and death, but power and legacy. The True Dragon selection draws contenders from all corners, with ancient oaths and martial power on display. But behind the rituals lies a corrupted, underbelly-bribed judges, fractured vows, and a trial that could alter everything. As Lihao faces enemies both visible and hidden, from a poisoned past to a treacherous future, the tension heightens. With Ren Xianxia torn between loyalty to him and her own secretive lineage, and Li Shani, an uncle cloaked in honor, yet driven by dark ambitions, the path forward is unclear. As illusions twist and truths collide, Lihao must confront not only his enemies but the very meaning of power itself. Will he continue the legacy, or will the weight of broken promises shatter everything? This volume dives deep into the balance of trust, betrayal, and the heavy price of ambition. At 17, Lihao reached the impressive 15 Li realm, a feat that earned him praise for his remarkable talent, even though Li Tiangang had achieved the same milestone at a similar age. By 19, Li Tiangang became a grandmaster, and by 23, he entered the three immortalities. a remarkable achievement, far surpassing many of the best talents. However, even such achievements fell short when compared to his ninth brother. With the Buddha Lord backing him and a well-established reputation, Lihao's position seemed strong. He had already left the mountain, likely gathering more achievements to further bolster his standing. Yet, while Lihao's record didn't show any military achievements, Li Tiangang planned to send him to the frontier to earn such accolades by slaying a great demon. But Lihao remained unfazed, and Li Fu, with a knowing smile, reminded them of Lihao's earlier quiet triumph in Kangyu City, where he single-handedly saved the entire city from a demonic calamity. This revelation took both Li Tiangang and Xuan Yu by surprise, shifting the perception of Lihao's achievements and hinting that his true potential was far from fully understood. The scene unfolded in the midst of martial brilliance, where the often underestimated Lihao achieved an extraordinary feat that no one had anticipated. His father, Li Tiangang, stood in stunned admiration, his gaze filled with both surprise and pride, realizing his son had stealthily accomplished something beyond his typical carefree nature. Xuan Yu too shared in this unspoken acknowledgement, recognizing the depth of Lihao's capabilities in rescuing those in need. The talk of rewards and the arrival of recognition filled the air, as the merit for such an act was bound to solidify Lihao's position. Li Tiangang's repeated exclamations of joy emphasized his newfound confidence in his son. It wasn't just the task completed, but the proof of strength in areas that couldn't easily be dismissed. Lihao's abilities, despite his youthful recklessness, had put him on a path where the family's legacy could now be firmly secured. Yet, the weight of this achievement was not lost on those around him, especially as the complexities of power, merit, and family ambitions loomed large in the background. Lihao's response was simple yet striking. If that's the case, does it mean there's nothing left for me to do? Upon hearing this, Li Tiangang, still chuckling, couldn't help but feel a pang of helplessness. The child before him had been spoiled by years of freedom and inaction, and now his desires were anything but conventional. If you're not cultivating, what else will you do? Li Tiangang asked, a sense of exhaustion creeping into his voice. I'll paint, play the zither, write poetry, Lihao answered casually. Li Tiangang grimaced at the list. His mind was elsewhere, but remembering his promise to the young man, he relented with a sigh. Fine, as you wish, I will keep my word. Lihao, relieved by this, nodded and left to find Fifth Master for a game of chess. After Lihao's departure, Li Tiangang turned to Xuan Yu, a long, sorrowful sigh escaping his lips. When will this child ever truly mature? He mused. Li Fu, ever optimistic, offered, My lord, the young master is more intelligent and mature than most of his age. He may be seeking more than just play, but companionship with Uncle Five. Li Tiangang's expression softened as he remembered the lonely old man in the Ancestral Hall and the solitary chessboard that sat there. Thoughts of his son's potential, both bright and burdensome, weighed heavily on him as the silence stretched. Lihao's reward was immense. For his bravery in defending the city and safeguarding over 1 million lives, he was granted the prestigious title of third-rank Earl and a city as his fief. Along with this, he received 10 chests of jewels and gold, along with divine armor and weapons from the 15 Li realm. Yet, the real value lay not in the material wealth, but in the Yu-Dragon Tokena life-saving charm that granted him 3 pardons from death. After the ceremony, Lihao received the imperial edict and bowed respectfully, his accomplishments spreading like wildfire across the city. At just 14, the young master of the Li family was now a celebrated hero. The rumors of his past, once labeling him a martial cripple, were now completely shattered. His name echoed throughout Qingzhou and beyond as a testament to his strength and honor. In the Li residence, the news stunned everyone, especially He Jianlan, who couldn't fathom how the worried child she once knew had transformed into such a formidable figure. The tides of fate had shifted, and Lihao had risen to claim his destiny. In the Piaoshu courtyard, Gao Qingqing could hardly believe the news that unfolded before her. She regretted her earlier advice to keep her child away from him, especially as she recalled his dazzling presence. Next to her, Li Xuanli, in awe, marveled at the remarkable qualities of the child, comparing him to his ancestors with a mix of admiration and astonishment. But as his words hinted at a delicate topic, Gao Qingqing's sharp retort quickly turned the atmosphere tense, with Li Xuanli scrambling to undo the unintended slip of his tongue. Meanwhile, in Shuihua courtyard, Liu Yue Rong was struck with disbelief upon learning that, at only 14, the child had been granted a noble title, bypassing ranks that many older figures could only dream of. This was no mere elevation. It was a recognition that transcended even the achievements of seasoned warriors, and it left her questioning the true forces at play behind this astonishing rise. What was the truth beneath the dazzling surface? Liu Yue Rong gritted her teeth, cursing the foolish monarch in her heart, but she dared not show any sign of frustration. Time was running out. 2 months? Maybe 6? maybe a year, but where could her son possibly gain the kind of merit needed to become a count? Merit, she knew, wasn't just about strength. It required opportunity, and the frontier was too dangerous for such a gamble. But then, a flicker of hope appeared as she received word from Mount Wuliang. Qianfeng had been called back and would be helped to seize the True Dragon title. Still, her mind rested on the Infinite Buddha, Lord, praying for divine intervention. As time passed, the external world buzzed with the news of the Li family's True Dragon decision, throwing Li Qianfeng into a whirlwind of emotion. His plans to return home shifted when he learned that his cousin, Lihao, had been granted the prestigious title of third-class count. This revelation shattered Qianfeng's pride. While he too had earned recognition, it was only a first-class knighthood a remarkable achievement, yet still inferior to Lihao's newfound rank. The mere thought of having to bow to Lihao as Lord Count filled him with deep resentment and disgrace. How could someone who once held so much promise be left to kneel in the shadow of a rival's glory? Li Qianfeng stood at a crossroads, torn between his desire for independence and the weight of his responsibilities, the hopes of many resting on his shoulders. As he returned to Mount Wuliang, a cascade of gifts and alliances poured in, a sign that the battle for the Li family's True Dragon title had begun. The competition between him and Lihao, the rising contender, was now undeniable, and everyone positioned themselves accordingly. In the past, the family's future had been uncertain, but now, with the path to power becoming clear, stakes were higher than ever. As Lihao remained unfazed, he found solace in the simpler moments of his journey visiting Song Shimo and sharing his homemade treats with her, a small act of kindness amidst the brewing storm. Despite her initial reservations, her enjoyment of his offering only deepened the quiet bond between them, a fleeting moment of peace in a time of relentless power struggles. In a tranquil moment by the cold pool, Song Kumo presents a rare treasure, the 1,000-year mysterious dark grass, shimmering in deep violet, radiating a mystic allure. She offers it to Lihao, explaining its benefits boosting frost-related cultivation techniques and defending against water demons. Despite her generous gesture, Lihao, ever humble, refuses, insisting she keep it for herself. He doesn't need it, he says, as his abilities far exceed what such treasures could offer, and his path lies beyond these aids. Song Chumo, taken aback by his refusal, feels a pang of confusion, for many have tried to gain her favor with similar gifts, yet Lihao's sincerity sets him apart. This moment, simple yet profound, reveals more than just their differing paths. It speaks to the essence of power, sacrifice, and the quiet choices that define them both. In the end, what's offered isn't always taken, and sometimes the greatest treasures are the ones left unclaimed. Lihao, born into the powerful divine general mansion, didn't need to lower himself to earn favor from anyone, especially someone from the demon race. Despite Song Chumo's insistence, he humorously turned down her offer, joking that he'd feed it to pigs, though secretly considering how he could use it to his advantage. Meanwhile, far from the scene, Li Yuanzhao sneezed, wondering if Li Yun was cursing him, unknowingly connected by the same thought. As Song Chumo carefully placed a rare medicinal treasure back into the cold pool for nurturing, she winked at Lihao, hinting that she'd like more of the food he brought. Lihao, ever the witty one, responded that satisfying a craving for her was possible, but feeding her well was a whole different challenge. As he left, Song Shumo watched him with a smile before silently diving back into the depths of the cold pool. Lihao, however, had other matters to attend to, heading towards the Black and White Hall, unaware of the challenges that awaited him. Lihao had previously notified Palace Master Song Yufeng of his intention to teach today. As a nominal instructor, he felt it was his duty, especially with his free time. Upon arriving at the Black and White Hall, a loud voice greeted him from within. "Get out! Stand outside the door!" The voice was harsh, criticizing the lack of seriousness in someone's approach. The words that followed were scathing, hinting that without his father's influence, this individual wouldn't have even made it into the Black and White Hall. Lihao was taken aback, his expression a mixture of surprise and confusion. It felt as if the place had turned into a gym class, a place where martial arts and studies were treated very differently from the expectations. Yet, this was the Tan Palace Academy, where literature was often disregarded in favor of martial prowess. As Lihao stepped inside the White Hall, he observed its vast space, organized neatly with 50 seats. Among the faces, one stood out, Song Yueao. This place, like others in the academy, had its own rhythm, and the tension between different ways of learning was palpable. It was clear that while the academy was a place of martial excellence, it was also filled with complex personalities and unseen struggle. She sat in the front, wearing the same White Hall uniform, yet she stood out like a beautiful scene. In front of the students, a young man in his 20s, head hanging and face flushed with embarrassment, was receiving a lecture from an elderly teacher with white hair. This young man, although in the divine travel realm and quite formidable in the outside world, was being scolded like a child. If I catch you bringing those useless books to class again, don't even bother coming back. You're spoiling the whole batch with one rotten apple. The teacher's volatile temper erupted as he shouted, "Out! Stand outside!" The young man, his face beet red, gritted his teeth and walked out. At the door, he paused when he saw Lihao, who had just entered. Other students also noticed Lihao's arrival. "It's him," Song Yueyao remarked. Surprised but remembering her grandfather's words, her eyes lighting up. Was he here to give a lecture? She didn't believe Lihao could teach anything profound, considering he was only 14 and not much older than her. Lin Feifei, Song Yueyao's close friend, looked at Lihao with a puzzled expression, feeling she had seen him before. Song Yueyao, however, didn't share that he was the same person who crossed the Mo River that day. After all, who really paid attention to such men on ordinary days? They were just faceless figures dust in trees in the distance. A newcomer enters, and immediately the whispers spread across the crowd. Who is this young man? He seems out of place, but his noble presence is undeniable. As the boy clashes with another student, a flush of embarrassment rushes over him. A loud command from behind forces him to retreat, adding more tension to the atmosphere. But then, an unexpected shift occurs. The elderly teacher spots the newcomer, a glimmer of recognition in his eyes. Lihao, a 14-year-old prodigy and the talk of the town, steps forward, and the transformation in the teacher's demeanor is instantaneous. The once intimidating figure now stands in complete submission, a stark contrast to his usual fiery attitude. The students, stunned and wide-eyed, watch in silence as the teacher introduces him as the Academy's new titular instructor, Lihao, the young master of the prestigious family. The weight of his arrival is palpable, leaving the onlookers in awe, unsure of what this change will bring. The moment Lihao's name was announced, the students, who had been confused and curious, suddenly burst into a frenzy. The whole city of Qingzhou had been buzzing about him for days. From tea houses to inns, his name echoed everywhere. While it might have been a mere stone creating ripples in the vast world of heroes, within the city, he was a household name. At just 14, with a cultivation realm already at the 15 Li stage, he was considered a once-in-a-millennium prodigy. The crowd stared at him, mesmerized, as though he were a priceless treasure. Lihao, though somewhat helpless, had anticipated such reactions, knowing he'd need to grow accustomed to this. As Sunday, Hongdian called the class to attention, announcing that Lihao would teach them. Excitement sparked among the students. They couldn't help but wonder what this legendary youth could possibly impart. Would it be his cultivation techniques, or just a glimpse into the mind of a prodigy? Despite their doubts, their curiosity was undeniable. As Sunday, Hongdian stepped aside, entrusting the class to Lihao, the young prodigy nodded with a calm smile. With his gaze settling on the now silenced room, the moment of anticipation was palpable. Lihao, with a knowing smile, cut straight to the chase. No need for introductions, what do you want to learn? Swordsmanship, fist techniques, or movement arts? The room shifts, anticipation building, and Song Yueyao's eyes glimmer with hope, especially when swordsmanship is mentioned. Most of them had practiced it, believing it to be the most noble of paths. Lihao chuckles, understanding their desire after all. The history of swords and blades stretches back to ancient times, filled with countless techniques and legends. As he casually offers to teach, the air crackles with curiosity. One bold soul asks if he will impart the renowned swordsmanship of the listening Rain Tower. But Lihao's smile never falters. Family secrets are off limits, he says, the playful edge in his tone hiding a deeper resolve. He assures them he can teach them what Master Bai has passed down, but skepticism rises. How can you teach something you haven't learned, one challenges, throwing doubt into the room. But Lihao, ever confident, replies, it's never too late to learn. With a playful glint in his eyes, he turns the question back to them. Anyone have a manual? This moment, like a sharp blade slicing through the tension, leaves the air thick with uncertainty and promise. Lihao's path is unpredictable, but one thing's for sure. He's no ordinary teacher. Give it to me for a moment. Those words sent a shockwave through the group, and dissatisfaction simmered in the air. Lihao's sudden declaration was seen as arrogant, dismissing the lesson they had all gathered for. The group's initial excitement quickly turned to disillusionment. Song Yueyao's expression darkened, her opinion of him shifting. Li, we really want to learn, someone said, trying to calm the tension. But Lihao, unfazed, pushed forward, asking if anyone had a sword manual. His approach, acting alone without regard for others, left the group frowning. His so-called teaching was nothing more than casual commentary on a manual. Was this really teaching? His prodigious talent was undeniable, but his arrogance was just as apparent. Disappointment reflected in Song Yueyao's eyes. The students wore faces of dissatisfaction, but none dared speak up. What was the point of this display if he wasn't going to teach? Yet the fear of offending him kept everyone silent. Lihao, however, took note of their reactions. His arrogance might have been obvious, but so too was the deep frustration building under the surface. Lihao quickly sensed the thoughts of those around him and couldn't help but feel a sense of helplessness. His eyes landed on Song Yueyao, and he calmly requested, "Song, you have the sword manual, don't you? Let me take a look." Song Yueyao, singled out by Lihao, became visibly uneasy under the watchful eyes of those nearby. With a frown, she responded, "I didn't bring the manual. My practice of the sword technique is almost perfected." Undeterred, Lihao ordered, "Then find me one." Song Yueyao remained silent, a pout forming on her lips as she reluctantly considered asking her friend, Lin Feifei, for help. But before she could speak, a young man stepped forward. "Li, I have one here," he announced, quickly handing over the sword manual with a grin. "Li, my name is Ma Jing." Despite his somewhat obsequious demeanor, Lihao simply nodded in acknowledgement. As Ma Jing returned to his spot, soft murmurs of disdain were heard from the crowd, unimpressed by his fawning. But Ma Jing, unfazed, knew this was an opportunity to gain favor, and he was not about to miss it. "Give me a moment," Lihao said, flipping through the manual. The intricate characters and illustrations were easily understood by someone of his expertise, and as he continued, he began to envision the techniques and moves in his mind. This was no ordinary manual. It was the high-quality Yin and Yang reversal sword, a treasure of swordsmanship. The pages were more than just instructions. They were a gateway to mastery. Lihao, already a master of many cultivation techniques, absorbs a torrent of information and is ready to teach. With a sharp focus, he calls in Zhou Zheng, a young man who has been reluctantly standing at the door, listening in on the lesson. Despite having no interest in martial arts, Zhou Zheng is drawn in by Lihao's presence, feeling unexpectedly acknowledged. Lihao, with a calm demeanor, begins by demonstrating the falling snow sword skill at its perfection level. His words confuse the disinterested group, some even stifling laughter, yet his skill is undeniable. In this moment, it's clear that Lihao's approach to swordsmanship is not just about technique, it's about understanding, power, and perhaps something deeper that awaits those who choose to follow. Lihao's bold claim to master a sword technique perfectly after just a glance stirs doubt among the crowd, who expect a spectacle. Despite his confident air, Song Yueyao is left unimpressed, recalling their brief encounter in Kangyu City. Yet, as Lihao unsheathes a sword with an effortless display of power, the spectator's scorn begins to waver, realizing the depth of his cultivation. Calmly, he executes the Yin and Yang inversion sword, a complex and formidable style. His movements are elegant and fluid, leaving the audience stunned and silencing any mockery. What was meant to be a simple show of skill quickly turns into a breathtaking display of swordplay, as even the most skeptical onlookers are forced to acknowledge the mastery before them. The silence in the hall mirrors the shock and admiration that now fills the air, with Song Yueyao herself taken aback by the unexpected brilliance. A spectacle of swordplay unfolded before her eyes, as magnificent and bold as a peacock unfurling its feathers. This was none other than the legendary Yin and Yang inversion sword. Song Yueyao stood frozen, struck by the sight, her mind struggling to comprehend the extraordinary display. She had mastered this technique herself, yet what she witnessed was beyond anything she could have achieved. The graceful yet chaotic flow of movements seemed impossible to decipher. Were they feints or genuine strikes, or perhaps a mesmerizing combination of both? It felt as if thousands of swords were dancing in the air, each movement blindingly fast and impossible to track. When the demonstration ended, the hall fell into a deep silence, the air thick with awe. Lihao sheathed his sword and after a moment's pause asked the group, "Did you learn it?" The students, still in a daze, could only stare at him, speechless. How could they possibly learn something so complex from a single viewing? One dared to ask, "Did you really just learn this technique?" The room gasped in disbelief. Lihao had absorbed the swordplay perfectly after a single glance at the manual, achieving mastery almost instantly. Even Song Yueyao, usually composed, found herself at a loss for words, her mind reeling in astonishment. Lihao, with a helpless sigh, clarifies that while the Li family holds many cultivation techniques, the secrets from Tan Palace Academy are off limits. He silently adds that even if he had stolen them, he wouldn't dare admit it. The gathered crowd exchanges knowing looks, understanding that any theft of such techniques would spark controversy and disdain across the martial world. The question then arises, could he really have mastered such a technique merely by watching it once? Lihao quickly brushes off their curiosity, telling them to focus and recall the sequence they had seen, promising to demonstrate it again, more slowly. As everyone attentively recalls, Lihao sets up an easel, a plan forming in his mind. He decides to paint, including everyone in the hall, their presence offering him valuable experience. Some are puzzled by his actions, but no one dares to interrupt. Half an hour later, Lihao finishes the painting, leaving the hall in an almost contemplative silence. His actions reflect his deeper understanding, and his quiet resolve hints at the complexities he faces ahead. In a quiet, intense moment, Lihao stands before the group, ready to demonstrate his sword technique once more. The atmosphere is thick with anticipation, and his audience, eager for mastery, watches with bated breath. With a slow and deliberate motion, Lihao picks up his sword, preparing for another round of demonstration. His movements, like the delicate shadows of a dream, weave intricate patterns that linger in the minds of all who observe. Though the swordplay is mesmerizing, it remains elusive, like wisps of light fading too quickly to fully grasp. The group, now lost in deep contemplation, watches as Lihao sets aside his blade, shifting his focus to his next task painting. His brushstrokes are swift, capturing the essence of each divine travel realm master in vibrant hues, rapidly accumulating experience. The room grows quiet as the students respect his space, their eyes returning to their own thoughts, but their minds still tangled in the memory of his technique. When Lihao finishes his work, he asks the group if they have learned, but one young noble requests another demonstration. Despite their silent hesitation, Lihao agrees. As he considers the request, a realization strikes him. Teaching isn't about repetition alone, it's about ensuring that every student truly understands. With that, he prepares to take a more thoughtful approach to guiding his peers, knowing that mere imitation won't suffice in the pursuit of true mastery. Lihao surveyed the group, asking each person about their agility, only to discover that while everyone had a base level of it, the proficiency varied greatly among them. Some were just starting to grasp it, while others were nearing perfection. "Since I'm the one teaching, I hope you all gain something from this," he stated, his gaze sweeping across the crowd. "I have 3 lessons for you this year, and I expect you to master this sword technique within that time. If you succeed, I might grant each of you 3 wishes within my capabilities." His words left the crowd in awe and disbelief. Achieving perfection in just 3 lessons? The young master's bold claim seemed far-fetched and impossible dream. After all, who could compare to Lihao? Who could perfect a technique after just a single glance at it? There was suspicion in the air. Was this some sort of bluff? A teacher trying to impress with promises of wish fulfillment? "Isn't this a bit too difficult, Li?" one voice questioned. Another added, "Are you serious, young master?" This is almost amusing. Amidst the murmurs, Song Yueyao watched Lihao with a puzzled expression, unable to decide whether this was a grand challenge or an empty boast. Lihao had reached the pinnacle of agility half a year ago, and with that, he understood how hard it was to transform skill into perfection. Even with natural talent, a full year of grueling practice would barely suffice to make sword maneuvers second nature. However, before the legendary young master of the Li family, impossible seemed a concept of the past. His feats had already surpassed what most would deem achievable. The crowd was abuzz with curiosity, but Lihao, unshaken, simply picked up his sword once more. While expecting others to replicate his perfect swordplay would waste both time and effort, understanding its essence could bridge the gap much faster. With a sharp command, Lihao silenced the murmurs, his gaze turning stern as he instructed, "Feel with your heart." With this, he drew his blade in a fluid motion, the yin and yang reversing sword revealing its true form. The blade shimmered, alternating between light and shadow, as it transcended the boundaries of the material world. It was not just a weapon, but an expression of the swordsmanship's purest artistic conception. The true form wasn't about precision, it was about the profound beauty of the sword, a beauty that could only be seen through the soul. The sword was real, but the space was an illusion. As the sword's light twisted and flickered, the alternating black and white gleams eventually merged into a singular force, completing the movement in a mesmerizing flash. The hall was left in complete silence, everyone captivated by the sword's lingering presence, as if the sword's shadow remained suspended in the air, its charm still gripping their minds. Even after Lihao sheathed it, the spectators remained entranced, their thoughts lost in the echo of the sword's image. After a long pause, one by one, they slowly began to return to their senses, murmuring in disbelief, realizing that what they had practiced before was not the true form of the sword. Some began to question their teachings, and others began to stir with excitement. Among them, one figure, Song Yueyao, in a daze, closed her eyes, then swiftly grabbed a sword from the rack. With a sharp clang, she struck, and the sword's shadow shimmered, its movements fluid and dazzling like a peacock spreading its feathers, embodying the perfect manifestation of the sword's power in that very moment. The crowd fell silent once again as they witnessed the true essence of the sword, realizing the profound difference between illusion and reality. Her swordsmanship, which had stagnated for half a year, reached an astonishing new height in that single moment. The entire hall was awestruck, their gazes fixed on her, whispering in disbelief as the true perfection of her technique unfolded. In less than a year, she had mastered this sword, achieving the level of perfection once demonstrated by the revered master. The crowd buzzed with excitement, the whispers of admiration now turning into a chant of respect for the young master. Others, sensing the shift, quickly rushed to the weapon racks, eager to capture the essence of the technique. The hall transformed into a whirlwind of motion, as one by one, practitioners followed suit, their blades dancing in the air with newfound understanding. Amidst this chaos, she came out of her trance, gazing at the sword in her hand, only to find her gaze meeting Hish's gentle smile offering silent encouragement. It struck her heart like a ray of sunshine, leaving her momentarily dazed and blushing, before she hastily looked away. The room buzzed with energy as more breakthroughs were made, the sound of joy and triumph echoing in the air. It was a day of not just physical advancement, but a moment of emotional revelation, marked by the breaking of old limits and the forging of new paths. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the lesson drew to a close. Lihao, observing the progress of his students, felt a sense of fulfillment knowing that dedication truly bears fruit. Just as the session ended, a question broke the silence. Someone inquired about the level of swordsmanship Lihao had demonstrated. The curious student wondered if it was the so-called ultimate perfection, but Lihao calmly revealed that beyond perfection lies the true state, a realm he himself had reached. His confidence in the true state wasn't misplaced. He understood that those who mastered the art deeply, like the sword saints and saber saints, had long touched it. Yet, he hinted that even the true state might not be the final step, alluding to higher realms that perhaps only spiritual awakening could reveal. The room fell silent in awe, especially Song Yueyao, who knew the rarity of such mastery and the dedication it required. The young genius, barely 14, had already surpassed what many would deem a lifetime's achievement. With a wave of his hand, Lihao concluded the class, leaving his students to ponder their paths and the true meaning of cultivation, knowing that mastery wasn't just about skill, but the journey within. Li Fu returned to the mansion and found Lihao, delivering a message from the Lord. The message emphasized the importance of making connections, even as securing the true dragon seemed almost guaranteed. However, networking was a lifelong effort, and the Lord hoped Lihao could achieve his goals flawlessly. Lihao agreed with a casual nod. The next day, he walked to the cold pond with small pastries, tossing a stone into the water. Soon, the water Qilin emerged, transforming into human form. Her eyes lit up at the sight of the pastries, and with a smile, Lihao handed them over before leaving. Song Chumo, delighted, took a bite and watched him leave. Lihao then moved on to his second lesson. As he reached the White Hall, an angry voice echoed from within, defending a child who had been humiliated by a teacher despite his martial arts limitations. Lihao, curious, entered to see a scene of Tenshin's son, Hong Dian and Zhou Jing were present, along with a stern-looking, middle-aged man who seemed to be closely related to Zhou Zheng. In a tense moment filled with emotion, the ground before them was littered with shattered book fragments, a chilling reminder of events from the day before. A furious confrontation ensues as Sunday Hongdian, embarrassed and frustrated, scolds Zhou Zheng, who was caught in the middle of a delicate situation involving his father's expected visit. Though Sunday Hongdian expected gratitude for his strict discipline, he was met with fiery opposition. Zhou Zheng's father, a martial artist of great repute, fiercely defends his son, declaring that his integrity and character are beyond reproach. He chastises Sunday Hongdian for insulting a person of such honor, even though his son's martial skills may not match expectations. His anger is palpable as he challenges anyone who dares to tarnish his son's name. The scene is charged with silent awe from onlookers who, instead of mocking Zhou Zheng, are filled with envy at the strength and loyalty of his father's defense. In the face of such unyielding protection, Sunday Hongdian erupts once more, declaring that if things continue this way, Zhou Zheng should leave, no longer subject to his teachings. Zhou Zheng's father, furiously pulling his son away, found himself met with resistance as Zhou Zheng, his eyes red from holding back tears, desperately begged, "Dad, I want to stay and learn properly. I mastered swordsmanship yesterday." His father, dismissing his plea, angrily retorted, "If you want to learn, I'll find you a different teacher. There are plenty of them out there." But just as they were about to leave, a sudden encounter with Lihao changed everything. The entire room turned to Lihao, greeting him with a unified, "Greetings to Teacher Li." Their respect caught both Zhou Zheng's father and Sunday Hongdian off guard. Zhou Zheng, his face lighting up, excitedly told his father, "This is Teacher Li, the one who helped us perfect our swordsmanship, from spirit level to flawless in a single lesson." His father and Sunday Hongdian were left baffled, struggling to understand how such a transformation had occurred. Lihao stood frozen, his mind reeling. Everyone had learned it in just one lesson yesterday? Only a few could even grasp it back then. But now, what was the point of his presence? Before he could process it further, Zhou Zheng's father, General Zhou Liang, stunned everyone by kneeling before him, proclaiming, "Mr. Lihao, at your service." Lihao quickly helped him up, puzzled but respectful. Zhou Liang explained his past service to Lihao's father, and Lihao, now understanding, reassured him. No need for such formalities. The exchange left everyone in awe, but Mr. Sunday wasn't pleased, clearly unsettled by the sudden shift in power dynamic. Zhou Zheng, eager to stay for another lesson, faced his father's hesitation. But after a brief conversation, Zhou Liang agreed. However, Sunday Hongdian scolded Zhou Zheng for disrupting the class, but Lihao calmly diffused the situation, maintaining his composure as Mr. Sunday reluctantly softened his stance. This encounter was more than just a class interruption. It was a subtle dance of influence and power, hinting at the deeper connections and unresolved tensions in this work. The students are buzzing with excitement after their lesson with Teacher Li, but there's an undercurrent of tension, as one teacher's harsh approach to motivation has rubbed some the wrong way. Lihao, on the other hand, with a calm and collected demeanor, addresses the class about their progress. With a quiet yet effective challenge, he brings up a bold statement from a fellow teacher about their supposed mastery of the arts. The class, now on fire with enthusiasm, praises his methods, with one student remarking on the clear hints of the deeper essence in his demonstration. The mood lightens, and in a playful exchange, they remind Lihao of his earlier promise, to grant them 3 wishes once they reached perfection. Lihao, with a knowing smile, seems resigned to the growing expectations, but there's a sense of mystery lingering in the air. What will come next in this journey where skill, promises, and destinies intertwine? Lihao, caught off guard, had made a spontaneous suggestion, never imagining it would lead to such skillful requests. These individuals truly earned their spot at Whitehall, displaying remarkable talent. "Go ahead and voice your wish, but keep it within reasonable limits," Lihao responded. The crowd buzzed with excitement, their desires ranging from visiting Listening Rain Tower to obtaining a renowned sword or mastering a new swordsmanship technique. Amid these more conventional requests, some of the group, in their lightheartedness, expressed a wish to become sworn brothers or tour the pleasure district. Lihao smiled and asked for quiet, allowing the noise to settle before suggesting, "Decide together and pick one." Surprised and delighted by his serious tone, the crowd eagerly debated. Lin Feifei quickly intervened, warning them not to be too greedy. A playful comment about visiting Listening Rain Tower was met with boisterous cheers from the young men, eager to experience a new world after long periods of study and pressure at Tan Palace Academy. The female students, unimpressed, rolled their eyes at their male counterparts. Lihao chuckled and dismissed the matter casually. Visiting a brothel? A trivial matter indeed. In an era where entertainment is scarce, the brothels of Qingzhou serve as a unique form of indulgence, each offering distinct experiences. While the lowest establishments cater to the most basic desires, the renowned ones deliver poetic performances and artistic displays, where the truly wealthy can seek both pleasure and entertainment. Lihao, preferring the finer things, chooses to visit only the best brothel for music and cultural enrichment. His decision causes a stir among his peers, with male students eagerly anticipating the outing, while female students, embarrassed and resistant, refuse to join. Lihao, unfazed, offers a gift to the protesting women, presenting them with a scroll of his sketches as compensation. His gesture, though unexpected, leaves everyone in awe of the talent displayed. This intriguing moment encapsulates the delicate balance between status, art, and personal boundaries. The students had no idea that Lihao's sketches, which they initially thought were just a casual hobby, would reveal such remarkable talent. His drawings captured the essence of everyone at White Halledge expression unique. Each person filled with charm, whether it was a furrowed brow, a contemplative tilt of the head, or a gentle smile. The girls were delicate and graceful, while the boys had a certain dashing handsomeness. Together, they formed a scene as beautiful as a gentle spring breeze, touched by the warmth of sunlight. The admiration was instant. One brave student asked, "Teacher Li, could I have one of these drawings?" Lihao, smiling, replied, "There aren't many. The girls get priority." That sparked a rush from the female students, eager to possess one. Among them, Song Yueyao's gaze lingered in awe, marveling at Lihao's artistic skills, realizing this wasn't something easily achieved. But what truly shocked her was that this young man, so serene and humble in appearance, was not only an unparalleled swordsman, but also a master in other arts, a mystery to everyone. With the girls satisfied, Lihao took the male students out for a walk, an outing during lesson time that was unheard of. The students, fearless under his protection, followed him without hesitation. As news of this reached the Tan Palace, Song Yufeng was so stunned by the story that he nearly choked on his tea, unable to believe the rumors of Lihao taking students to visit brothels during class. In Chapter 97, the tension rises as Song Yufeng discovers the shocking truth behind Lihao's action. The Elder's divine soul investigation uncovers an unthinkable revelation. Lihao, after casually flipping through a sword manual, has executed swordsmanship at a level beyond what anyone thought possible. Song Yufeng, infuriated by the absurdity of it all, is relieved when his granddaughter, Song Yueao, walks in. She confirms the scandalous rumor about Lihao's involvement with the brothel, causing further outrage. However, Yueao's calm demeanor shifts the narrative as she defends Lihao, explaining the truth of the situation. The Black Hall Elder and Song Yufeng are both left stunned by the unbelievable feat Lihao has accomplished, challenging the boundaries of martial art mastery. The chapter ends on a note of confusion and awe, leaving everyone questioning what is truly possible in the world of cultivation. Despite his denials, Song Yufeng and the Black Hall Elder had to believe it, especially since, according to Song Yueao, dozens of people in the White Hall had seen it with their own eyes. It was just that such a thing was too exaggerated to believe. Song Yufeng's first thought was that the sword manual had been leaked and Lihao had secretly practiced it for a long time before revealing his skills today. But his second thought was, even if the boy had practiced in secret, this was just too outrageous, wasn't it? After all, he was only 14 years old. Did he start training as a baby? With a cultivation level at the 15 Li realm already breaking the record of the 19 states, but he now also mastered a high-grade swordsmanship at the level of true form? Wait a second. Song Yufeng suddenly felt something wasn't quite right. Lihao might not only have mastered one true form level swordsmanship, and it was not necessarily the case that their sword manual was leaked. After all, listening Rain Tower of the Li family had numerous sword techniques, with who knows how many high-grade sword techniques. Even if someone secretly collected the Yin and Yang divided sword, why would they need to teach it to Lihao? The Li family had access to peerless swordsmanship. Since one's energy is limited, they would have trained Lihao in the peerless sword techniques, not waste time on a high-grade sword technique. Thinking of this, Song Yufeng's heart gave a violent twitch, and if that was the case, there seemed to be only one explanation. That was, Lihao indeed learned it by glancing through a sword manual once, and he even reached the true form. Listening to his granddaughter say it seemed there was a process, initially showing perfect level, then stepping into true form, skipping the ultimate perfection. Damn it, it's still unacceptable. Even if it was the reincarnation of a sword immortal, it would be no more than this. Song Yufeng's face twitched, somewhat dazedly looking outside Tan Palace. What kind of child had the Li family brought into this world? Song Yufeng finally came back to his senses and couldn't help but chuckle, remembering the incident at the brothel. This young fellow really dares to agree, not even thinking about his age, he mused. Song Yueao's face shifted slightly at his words. Suddenly, Song Yufeng smacked his forehead in realization. They didn't wear the academy's uniform, did they? It was too late to stop them now. But after a single lesson from Lihao, the results were more impressive than years of hard training. A break seemed justified, as long as they didn't tarnish Tan Palace's reputation. They didn't, confirmed the Black Hall Elder, and Song Yufeng sighed in relief, laughing. The youngster still has some sense. On his way down the mountain, Lihao encountered Jiang Hangsing, a poetry-loving prince. Upon hearing Lihao's plans to visit the brothel, Jiang Hangsing was astonished and eagerly decided to join. Cloud Smoke Pavilion, Qingzhou's most prestigious brothel, was not just about indulgence, it was a cultural hub, where talented scholars from noble families gathered to compose poetry. Poetry contests were held, and the top poet was granted an audience with Hong Wanner, the legendary courtesan. As Lihao and his companions arrived, a contest was underway, but with only silver required to enter and poetry to win, the disciples from Whitehall, skilled in martial arts but lacking in literary prowess, were at a loss. Fortunately, Lihao was prepared, having promised to fulfill their wishes, and he wasn't about to let them return empty-handed. In the poetic atmosphere of a martial arts gathering, the verses felt like a call to arms for those with a warrior's heart. Zhou Zheng, moved by the powerful words, stood on the precipice of a deeper understanding, swept away by the stirring energy of the poem. These verses, filled with boldness and raw emotion, resonated deeply with those who felt constrained by the weight of their unfulfilled aspirations. As the disciples of Whitehall took to the stage, each recitation captured the attention of all present, with their verses embodying both defiance and yearning. Among them, a girl in her 20s, captivated by the talent on display, watched with wide eyes as the words flew like arrows to pierce the hearts of her peers. The atmosphere was electric, charged with anticipation as the martial world, where valor and heroism were praised, clashed with the rare beauty of poetry. Among the many guests, a young man known for his sharp mind and striking verses stood at the center of attention. It was revealed that the poems, each one crafted with care and passion, were the work of Lihao, a young figure whose identity added layers of intrigue to the unfolding event. As his name spread through the crowd, excitement soared, and the focus shifted to his talents. The mood shifted from admiration to infatuation, as even those without poems to share basked in the glow of Lihao's work, finding themselves showered with attention. Amidst the celebration, Lihao's true nature shone humble and approachable. His presence disarmed those around him, even as the people around him, including the manager, felt the weight of his unspoken importance. Lihao, indifferent as always, agreed to let the manager pick 2 lines of poetry to decorate the Cloud Smoke Pavilion. These lines, simple yet powerful, read, "You must know, in my youth I grasped at clouds, promised to be the finest in the world." Little did the manager know, these words would soon catapult the pavilion's name across the 19 provinces. Meanwhile, Lihao, fully immersed in indulgence, found himself in the company of the most coveted courtesan, Hongwan. Despite her playful advances, Lihao, ever casual, only asked her to peel seeds for him, a task she obliged without question. As rumors swirled, news of Lihao's actions reached the Divine General Mansion, causing an uproar. His father, Li Tiangang, enraged by the report, demanded his immediate return, unwilling to tolerate his son's reckless behavior. The stage was set. Lihao's journey was no longer just about power, but about the consequences of every action he took, and the family ties that bound him. Lihao, indifferent as always, agreed to let the manager pick 2 lines of poetry to decorate the Cloud Smoke Pavilion. These lines, simple yet powerful, read, "You must know, in my youth I grasped at clouds, promised to be the finest in the world." Little did the manager know, these words would soon catapult the pavilion's name across the 19 provinces. Meanwhile, Lihao, fully immersed in indulgence, found himself in the company of the most coveted courtesan, Hongwan. Despite her playful advances, Lihao, ever casual, only asked her to peel seeds for him, a task she obliged without question. As rumors swirled, news of Lihao's actions reached the Divine General Mansion, causing an uproar. His father, Li Tiangang, enraged by the report, demanded his immediate return, unwilling to tolerate his son's reckless behavior. The stage was set. Lihao's journey was no longer just about power, but about the consequences of every action he took, and the family ties that bound him. In a world where every decision feels like it could reshape his destiny, Lihao's life has become a delicate balance between honor and ambition. After a tense encounter in Cloud Smoke Pavilion, where his reputation was on the line, Lihao finds himself at the heart of a growing storm. His interactions with the alluring Hongwaner, who once hoped to win his favor, only deepened the cracks in his perception of the world around him. Hongwaner, initially captivated by his poetic charm, now sees him as little more than a plaything for the rich, leaving her dreams of a golden future dashed. Meanwhile, Lihao's loyal servant, Fu, grows increasingly anxious as the political tensions around them escalate. As Lihao steps further into the tangled webs of power and manipulation, he is forced to question not only his family's expectations, but his own desires. Will he conform to the path laid before him, or will he break free from the shackles of duty? His journey is one filled with betrayals, broken oaths, and the painful realization that true power may come at an unbearable cost. In this world of illusions, where every step forward seems to tear something apart, Lihao is left to face a bitter truth. Power doesn't just demand sacrifice, it demands the breaking of promises once thought unbreakable. Lihao quickly returned with Li Fu, realizing the disciples within the building no longer required his attention. They had grown capable of managing on their own. Soon, they arrived at the Mountain River courtyard, where Li Tiangang sat in the main hall, his expression grim. A new desk sat beside him, with a teacup and a rattan stick resting atop it. Upon seeing this, Li Fu's face turned pale. He quickly spoke up, "My lord, the young master has returned, and there are reasons behind this." Li Tiangang, though visibly angry, masked his fury with a deep tone, remembering past incidents. Lihao, ever composed, merely raised an eyebrow as Li Fu explained the situation. "Nonsense!" Li Tiangang boomed. "Would you give away a piece of land so easily just because someone asks?" His anger was palpable, a sharp contrast to Lihao's calm response. "It was a motivational gesture, within my ability," Lihao explained. But Li Tiangang's words cut deeper, questioning if Lihao would give away an entire city if he ever achieved the status of a true dragon. Lihao, with a sigh, met his gaze and answered, "What I can handle is relative. It's for me to judge the extent." The air grew heavy with the weight of their conversation. Both father and son standing on opposite sides of an unspoken divide, their bond tested yet again. Lihao, caught between his family's expectations and his own desires, finds himself in a tension-filled moment when confronted by Xianxia, his uncle, about his rebellious visit to a brothel. The exchange sharpens into an unexpected clash. Xianxia's words are laced with caution, revealing the complex stakes surrounding the True Dragon selection and the hidden power plays at hand. He warns Lihao of the looming dangerous forces within their family and beyond preparing to strike. The bitterness of these truths weighs heavily on Lihao, who, despite his apparent youth, understands the price of defying fate. Yet, as his uncle speaks of loyalty and sacrifice, Lihao is left questioning the very nature of power and the fractured bonds of family. His silent departure underscores the deep-rooted conflict within him, one of loyalty to his bloodline versus the desire for self-determination. The weight of the conversation lingers as he walks away, the illusions of family and power gnawing at his soul, all while the promises made long ago seem ever more fragile. Lihao's journey through life is a turbulent one, caught between the expectations of his father and his own desires. As Xianxia watches his son, he wonders when the boy will grow up and temper his impulsive nature, questioning who he takes after. Lihao, however, finds solace in the peace of the family mansion after his return from the brothel, though his relationship with his father remains strained. Their personalities are worlds apart. Xianxia seeks to guide his son, while Lihao yearns for freedom. Despite their differences, they come to a fragile compromise. Lihao will stay home, but his actions will no longer be controlled. No longer focused on painting, Lihao immerses himself in ancient cultivation techniques, his mind set on understanding the heart of a grandmaster, though the path proves difficult. With his 6th-stage insight, he should have progressed to the heavenly human realm, but he is stuck. What does it mean to be a grandmaster? It is more than mastery over techniques. It is the ability to forge a path of one's own, to create a legacy. But this journey is fraught with challenges, as Lihao will soon discover that power comes with a heavy price. The path to becoming a grandmaster is one walked alone, with no one to guide or offer advice. Not even the 3 immortals, with their higher realms, can show the way each grandmaster's journey is uniquely their own. To reach the Celestial Master Realm, one must forge their path through self-discovery, contemplating the essence of martial arts through one's own understanding. Lihao, caught in a whirlwind of uncertainty, sat alone in the Listening Rain Tower, reflecting on the words of his second uncle. The advice was simple, yet profound. First, find your martial heart through the struggles of life. Second, face the brink of death for a fleeting moment of enlightenment. Or third, return to the basics, for it is in simplicity that the true heart of martial arts lies. Like a stone, despised when discarded, but revered when placed on a pedestal, the most basic techniques may hold the key to greater understanding. Lihao, with his mind focused yet uncertain, leafed through the martial compendium before him. The techniques of swords, spears, and fists lay before him, a vast array of knowledge. But for now, he only turned the pages aimlessly, not seeking answers, but passing time. The month passed by like a blur, yet his journey to understanding was just beginning. Lihao, a young martial artist, immerses himself in various books within the Listening Rain Tower, learning not only martial arts, but also tales of fascinating figures and the diverse paths taken by grandmasters. Some grandmasters wield ruthless, underhanded techniques, while others focus on raw power or nimble movements. Lihao, with his exceptional insight into swordsmanship and boxing, easily creates his own fighting styles. Yet, despite mastering techniques, he struggles to discover his true martial heart. Unlike others, who forge their path from their will, Lihao finds himself lost in a sea of techniques that confuse his spirit. As he returns to the mountain and river courtyard, a mysterious encounter with a young girl, who speaks with his father, sets the stage for further challenges. In his journey, Lihao must confront his own identity and the weight of his family's expectations, all while navigating the complexities of the martial world. The battle is not only with external enemies, but within himself, as he searches for the essence of his heart, a crucial element that could define his future. She was dressed in a dark purple robe, exuding an air of mystery, like a fragrant and intense orchid in bloom. Even just her upright back seemed to radiate with the vibrancy of youth. At that moment, they seemed to be discussing something that brought smiles to Xianxia's face. His gaze was filled with warmth and affection. Reaching the doorway, Lihao thought of the etiquette he'd been forced to learn over the past month, and instead of entering directly, he stopped and called out from outside. Xianxia looked toward Lihao, and at the same time, the girl with her back to the entrance turned around. Her brows were like distant mountains, her eyes as clear as bright streams, and her delicate face was softly illuminated, her skin white as jade. Lihao stared for a moment before his eyes widened in surprise. "Xuer? Brother Hao?" The girl recognized Lihao as well, the past memories rising in her mind. She broke into a radiant smile and called out to him with a crisp voice. Lihao finally confirmed that the girl before him was the little miss he hadn't seen for 8 years, the little tail that used to follow him around. He stepped forward quickly, looking her up and down with astonishment. In the 8 years they had not seen each other, the little girl who used to cry at the smallest thing had grown into a young lady, and not only that, she was beautiful and delicate, as though crafted with care. "You've grown up so much," Lihao couldn't help but utter a remark full of amazement. The girl was indeed beyond Rushu. She stood up from her chair with graceful movements and smiled. "Brother Hao, you've grown a lot taller too." "Of course," Lihao laughed and said, "Why didn't you say something before coming back? Have you eaten yet?" The laughter echoed, a familiar sound in the air. "Let me tell you, my cooking skills have improved a lot. In a few months, I can fatten you up into a little fatty." The teasing words floated through the conversation, leaving a slight flush on the girl's cheeks as she responded, her tone light but carrying a hint of a smile. Brother Hao still likes to joke around. His grin widened. "Who told you to be such a crybaby? I definitely have to tease you." Her retort was playful yet firm. "I'm not a puppy." His hearty laugh filled the space, and then his attention shifted, the joking tone slipping as he asked with genuine concern, "How's your swordsmanship training going? Did anyone bully you?" Her response was reassuring, a smile gracing her lips as she shook her head. "Master and my senior brothers and sisters are very nice to me. Nobody bullies me." A sigh of relief escaped his lips before he turned the focus back to himself. "Of course I've been great. Don't you know who I am? I'm the one who bullies others. Nobody can bully me. My days are filled with eating and drinking, incredibly joyful." The mood shifted as another figure in the room listened, his frown deepening as he quietly observed. With a soft glance at Lihao, the girl gently urged, "Brother Hao, stop joking around." At her words, the man, whose presence had remained stoic, spoke sternly. "Hao, be serious. Zhuer has just come back. You're not allowed to bully her." Lihao stood there with a smile, but it seemed tinged with a bit of helplessness. Bian Ruche quickly turned to her uncle, Li Tiangang, to assure him that she wasn't being bullied by Lihao. Li Tiangang, with a reassuring smile, promised that if anyone ever mistreated her, he would stand up for her. As he had promised her father, he would always protect her from harm. Grateful, Bian Ruche thanked him and then turned her attention to Lihao, her gaze softening as she asked for a walk. Without hesitation, Lihao agreed, though his mind lingered on something else as he glanced at his father, seeking permission. With a nod of approval, Li Tiangang assured him that he trusted Lihao with Bian Rushue's safety. Hand in hand, they stepped outside, but there was an undeniable weight in the air, a lingering tension hidden beneath the casual walk, hinting that there was more to their relationship than what met the eye. This moment, though seemingly peaceful, was just a fleeting break from the storm that loomed ahead. Lihao, a young man with a complicated legacy, finds himself caught in the undercurrents of Qingzhou's political intrigue. As a failed assassination plot unveils deeper conspiracies tied to the true dragon selection, he is thrust into the heart of a ruthless competition. With his fate intertwined with the powerful forces surrounding him, Lihao is not only a target but also a key contender. At the Autumn Summit, a gathering of martial power and ancient rites, the stakes are higher than ever. The Bloodleaf Reversal, a forgotten trial, awaits, where illusions from the past and future collide, testing not just physical prowess, but loyalty and honor. As Lihao struggles with his role in this grand scheme, his relationship with the enigmatic Ren Xianxia grows more strained. She is torn between her duty to him and the survival of her hidden lineage. Meanwhile, Lihao's family ties, particularly with his uncle Li Shanhe, a man cloaked in honor but harboring dark ambitions, continue to pull him in conflicting directions. The deeper Lihao delves into the legacy of the true dragon, the more he questions what true power demands. In the end, the breaking of a spiritual sword symbolizes the end of a promise that was never meant to last. Amidst broken oaths, illusions, and shifting allegiances, Lihao's journey is one of self-discovery and painful choices, where every step forward could either shatter or rebuild the path ahead. Lihao glanced at Bian Rushu, a subtle smile forming on his face as he teased, "You're only 14, claiming to be grown up. By 20, you'll be ancient." But Bian Rushu remained unmoved, her maturity already apparent in her calm reply. As they wandered through the busy market, Lihao tried to spoil her, buying a metal frog that hopped with a press, a quaint gift from the Qianji sect. Their conversation drifted to the past, with Lihao learning of Bian Rushue's adventures on the mountain and her recent travels to investigate strange occurrences, zone of which led to the destruction of a village by the Mo River. As they sat down to dinner, the awkwardness of years apart melted away, and they slowly rekindled the bond they once shared. Time had passed, but their friendship was undeniable, and the night seemed full of quiet promises for more adventures ahead. The simplicity of their reunion, like the frogs hopping, reminded them both of how life's complexities sometimes come down to small, meaningful moments. Lihao and Bian Rusho's conversation reveals an intriguing depth of emotional tension and unspoken conflicts. After trying to destroy something, Lihao finds solace in knowing that its temporary disappearance still serves a purpose. This speaks to the power of perseverance, even in the face of obstacles that cannot be permanently overcome. Bian Rusho, carrying the weight of her training, expresses a modest reaction to her swordsmanship, hinting at an underlying insecurity. However, when the topic shifts to Lihao's upcoming challenge as the Li family's true dragon, her faith in him shines through. The playful teasing between them lightens the mood, but there is a sharp undercurrent of tension, especially with hints of a larger political plot looming. Lihao's casual confidence contrasts with the complex situation unfolding around them, especially as whispers of powerful figures heading to Qingzhou suggest that larger forces are at play. This exchange sets the stage for what promises to be an intense, emotionally charged trial for both characters, blending personal growth with the ominous forces of power and legacy. Lihao and Bian Rusho stand amidst the calm before the storm, discussing the weight of connections in the contest for the True Dragon title. Despite the apparent importance of ties, Lihao remains confident that they cannot sway the outcome. Their conversation takes a lighter turn when Bian Rusho offers to call for reinforcements, to which Lihao responds with a request that leaves her speechless she's full and expects her to finish the meal. As days pass, the two share simple pleasures delighting in food, performances, and the beauty of nature. Lihao even presents her with a personal gift, a collection of over 100 paintings crafted with painstaking effort. Though they are both extraordinary figures, their shared moments of joy are marked by an innocence and connection beyond the weight of their worlds. Lihao's fishing trip was more than just a moment of leisure. On the quiet shore of a small demon lake, away from the bustling Blackwater Demon Lake, he and Bian Rusho shared an unexpected yet meaningful experience. As Lihao cast his line, the serene stillness of the moment unfolded. Bian Rusho, her gentle gaze on him, reflected on past memories. Those carefree days of childhood, when swordplay was interrupted by the boy's mischievous calls of, "You've placed it wrong again," echoed in her mind. A quiet smile tugged at her lips as she watched Lihao, his focus on the float, reminding her of his youthful spirit. With a sudden tug of the line, Lihao caught a demon fish, earning a delighted cheer from Rusho. But despite his skill, it was the soft connection between them, the way they both, in their own worlds, wandered in thoughts of the past that truly filled the air. With dusk falling and the calm of the moment slipping away, Lihao's quiet declaration to head home brought an end to this peaceful interlude. Yet, this peaceful moment was woven with the weight of unspoken truths. Just like the storm brewing beyond the horizon, Lihao and Bian Rusho strolled through the serene countryside, the evening smoke from cooking fires adding to the peaceful atmosphere. As they passed a melon field, Lihao, with a playful grin, had Xiaoru distract the lone guard dog while he swiped a watermelon. The couple, enjoying the cool breeze, found a quiet spot on a hillside. Lihao eagerly dug into the juicy fruit, showing no restraint, while Bian Rusho, ever the lady, sliced the melon into delicate pieces with a flick of her blade. Their simple joy in these small moments of peace was palpable, the soft hues of the sunset mirroring their contentment. Later, returning home, Lihao's father, noticing their dirty clothes, gently reminded him to take Bian Rusho to better places, questioning whether she enjoyed their humble adventures. But it was clear from their smiles that the value of these shared moments far outweighed any concerns. Lihao, with a faint smile, listens quietly before nodding and walking away. Bian Rusho quickly explains to her uncle, "Uncle, I was the one who wanted to watch him fish. He enjoys it so much, I can tell." Li Tiangang, fond and caring, looks at her with soft eyes. "I know he likes it, but you can't always indulge him like this. If something happens to me, you'll have to stand strong." Concerned, Bian Rusho hurriedly responds, "Uncle, don't speak like that. You'll be fine." Li Tiangang smiles gently. "Don't worry about me, Shu'er. Think about yourself more." Later, Lihao continues to accompany Bian Rusho through the city, and they enjoy a lively temple fair filled with fireworks, street performances, and shadow puppet shows. As the night winds down, Lihao, carrying their purchases, smiles at her. "Are you happy?" Sitting together on a stone by the roadside, watching the sunset, Bian Rusho's eyes shine with joy. Lihao turns to her, noticing the remnants of her childhood innocence in her matured features, realizing how much she has changed as she grew up. In the stillness of the moment, she had become more dazzling, her beauty now radiant and perfect. But as with all brilliance, it comes with a price. Like a meteor streaking across the sky, its glory fleeting, burning its very essence in the process. Lihao sat beside her, a quiet observer as they shared a calm silence. Breaking it, he asked, "Do you want days like this to last forever?" Beyond Ruxu, taken aback, turned to face him, their eyes locking so much left unspoken. With a soft smile, she answered, "Of course I do." But Lihao, noticing the sword in her grasp, pressed further. "Really?" The bond between them, tied by that inseparable blade, weighed heavily in the air. Beyond Ruxu's smile wavered, replaced by a quiet understanding. She sighed, her heart heavy, as if she knew her dreams were leading her down a path where his love could never follow. "Brother Hao, I might let you down," she whispered, her voice betraying a sorrow far deeper than any mere words. She turned, her expression serious now, brows furrowed with the burden of her choices. "I know you've been good to me, but I need to see it for myself. I must reach the peak of swordsmanship and see if I can truly touch the summit." In her words, the gulf between them widened, and Lihao's silent heart sank. For her, the sword was not just a weapon, it was a destiny she had to fulfill even at the cost of everything she held dear. As the girl spoke of the sword, her voice, soft but resolute, revealed an unshakable determination. Lihao said nothing, simply observing her, silently acknowledging the intensity in her eyes of familiar gaze, one driven by the relentless pursuit of glory, much like many other great warriors before her. Once you've seen such a view, you'll realize that the simplest of lives is truly the happiest, Lihao murmured, as if reflecting on a deep truth. Was the fleeting joy of recent days not enough to sway her heart from this burning obsession with the sword? Yet the girl, her gaze fixed on the setting sun, expressed her longing. "Maybe, but if I don't strive for it, I'll never be satisfied. I need to witness the ultimate swordsmanship, the sword of the gods." Lihao smiled, shaking his head. Legends of such a sword had endured through countless eras. The sword of the gods, a blade shrouded in mystery. Its form and technique unknown, was believed to possess unimaginable power, the ability to sever gods, spirits, demons, and even the very fabric of the world. No one knew if it truly existed, but to wield it meant to command supremacy over all. Lihao, in his time at Listening Rain Tower, had uncovered records of sword saints, each grappling with the elusive nature of this sword, sparring and seeking its hidden truths. 800 years ago, the Sword of the Gods was a tale that gripped the hearts of sword cultivators, a legend that inspired both obsession and madness. However, as time passed and no one truly understood its mysteries, it faded into obscurity. Now, the story is more of a myth than a pursuit, with no one daring to discuss or explore it. That is, until a girl seemingly untouched by the passage of time dares to express a desire to seek it out. Her wish stirs memories of a harsh old man who had once dismissed Lihao, a man who had no affection or hatred toward him until now. He is intrigued, even a little angry, as he wonders whether this wish was planted by that old man. Yet, when the girl responds, explaining that it is merely her own path, Lihao's frustration subsides, and he offers his aid. As they speak, memories of their shared youth resurface, but the past cannot be relived. The Sword of the Gods remains elusive, a legend without form, its secrets hidden in the shadows, waiting for someone truly worthy to uncover them. Will it be her, or will the legend continue to elude them all? The journey to uncover the truth of the Sword of the Gods may be long, but it's one that neither of them is willing to abandon. Bian Ruxie's voice was soft yet firm as she spoke. "I understand you wield a sword as well, but this swordsmanship is a journey only the brave undertake. Even my master could not fully guide me. One must dedicate their life to it, searching endlessly for only a glimpse of its truth." Lihao, momentarily silent, absorbed her words. With a sword saint as her mentor, teaching her was unnecessary. His eyes met hers, and he asked, "Have you truly surrendered yourself to the sword?" The blade, a path of obsession, only those who loved it entirely could understand its pull. She met his gaze without hesitation, her heart unyielding in its pursuit of the sword's essence. "Yes, that's why I must go and see for myself," she replied. "But what if you can't find it?" and he asked. "That's why I must try," she answered without a second thought. Lihao, burdened with the knowledge of how many had failed before her, asked, "Are you willing to sacrifice everything for something that may never be found?" She paused, her heart resolute. "If I don't climb, I will regret it forever." Lihao sighed, a faint smile escaping as he pondered the nature of infatuation and loss. The world, filled with countless attachments and unfulfilled desires, was but a fleeting moment. As he watched her, he couldn't help but ask, "What was your plan from the beginning?" She hesitated. Then, with a look of quiet reluctance, she whispered, "In my sect, one can choose between the mundane world and the path of the sword. In this tale of obsession, sacrifice, In an unyielding search for a legendary truth, Bian Ruche's journey is one of love and sacrifice for the sword she cannot let go of, even if it means risking everything she has. In the quiet, windswept world where swords are more than weapons, they embody one's very soul. Bian Ruche's path is as clear as it is solitary. Her decision to return to the sword, leaving behind a future of marriage and family, reflects the singular devotion required to reach the pinnacle of her craft. As she speaks, her cheeks flush with a mixture of resolve and a soft vulnerability, revealing the deep bond she shares with Lihao. Yet, she understands the heavy price of her ambitions sacrificing the chance for a normal life in favor of a relentless pursuit of mastery. Lihao, ever perceptive, recognizes her struggle. He knows the sacrifice is not just of time, but of everything that could have been. The path of the sword demands complete devotion, and despite the pull of their shared past, Bian Ruche must choose, with a heart torn between the person she was and the legacy she wishes to carve. In a world where swords define one's destiny, she forged her path not only with steel, but with unwavering dedication. Her journey was one of sacrifice, choosing the sword over all else, even love. She sought to repay an unspoken debt to a figure who had shaped her into the master she became. Despite the cost of waiting, of delaying her ultimate rise for a year, her heart was resolute. Her decision was final, unwavering, as she pledged to birth a child as a form of repayment, binding her soul to a promise. The weight of this decision, however, was not without its sorrow. Lihao, seeing her devotion to the blade, could not compete with the years she had sacrificed to her sword, understanding her resolve, but feeling the sting of being a distant second. Their bond was forged through years of trials, through tears and promises. Yet when the sword called, everything else faded into the background. She had chosen her path, and no vow, no matter how deep, could break the sword's hold on her heart. In a tale of shifting alliances and fragile promises, the bond between two souls is tested under the weight of destiny. Lihao, once carefree, now finds himself caught in a web of political intrigue and martial trials. A seemingly innocent vow made long ago, rooted in playful words, unfolds as a pivotal moment in a deeper story. As he contemplates the lessons of life in combat, he recalls the teachings of his mentor, the meaning behind the half-step invincible fiststand art that speaks of restraint, understanding, and balance. Life, like martial arts, is about knowing when to step forward and when to hold back, lest one's weakness be exposed. But even as Lihao's mind reflects on these truths, his heart remains tangled in promises both broken and unbroken. With the arrival of the Autumn Summit, the fate of the True Dragon candidates is sealed, and Ren Xianxia faces a choice between loyalty and survival. The sword, a symbol of both power and sacrifice, shatters under the weight of an irrevocable promise, marking the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. This is not just a story of martial prowess, but one of inner struggle, where every choice leaves a scar and every promise carries a burden. The path ahead is unclear, but one thing is certain: the legacy of the dragon will not be easily claimed. Bian Ruche, feeling a quiet tremor in her heart at Lihao's sigh, tightens her grip on her sword but quickly relaxes it, realizing that this outcome, though painful, was something she had expected all along. With an air of feigned composure, she looks at him and asks, "When did you know?" Lihao, his gaze momentarily catching her radiant smile, answers cryptically, perhaps from a long, long time ago. The weight of his words leaves her confused, questioning, why? But Lihao offers no explanation, his gaze shifting to the world around them, where life moves on without pause, just like the fleeting beauty of the evening glow. Despite the happiness she felt in the past moments, it's clear that something has shifted, and the heart he once sought may no longer be within her reach. As they stand amidst the beauty of the moment, Lihao's smile is tinged with a quiet melancholy, knowing that the world doesn't wait for anyone, not even for their lost connection. Bian Ruche paused, feeling the weight of Lihao's words. She knew he wasn't speaking about others, but about her. She responded thoughtfully, "Maybe they are just busy chasing their dreams." "You taught me about dreams, Brother Hao." Lihao chuckled, a spark of energy igniting in him as he stood up, full of spirit. "You're right," he agreed. "But if one truly desires something, they can always find the moment to look up. It's all about willingness," she asked. "And what's the purpose of that?" He smiled knowingly. "The purpose? Isn't life all about that single moment of looking up?" A deep silence followed, both reflecting on the weight of his words. After a while, his expression softened, wearied by the day's events. "I think I've had enough for today. You should go back," he said. Bian Ruche nodded, her voice gentle. "It's getting late. Dinner awaits at the courtyard. Don't keep Uncle waiting." Lihao's lips curled up, a hint of nostalgia in his gaze. "I've waited for him for 14 years. What's a little longer?" She paused, a pang of sadness creeping into her heart as she realized the depth of his unspoken burden. The moment felt heavier than any sword strike. Without a word, she left, and Lihao, alone with the snacks in his hands, smiled softly, amused that she hadn't taken any. If she truly liked them, wouldn't she have kept one for herself? He mused as the night fell silent around him. She only carried that sword and with her own self, left like a whiff of breeze. A mysterious woman, so enigmatic, vanishing without a tracer sword, it seems, holds a profound allure. But what is it that draws people to it? Lihao pondered the question, staring at the sky, wondering if he would ever reach the pinnacle of swordsmanship. Perhaps, he thought, he might climb the mountain where countless swordsmen had perished and see if the legendary divine sword truly existed atop that peak. The sun, blood red as it set, painted the horizon with the colors of an impending fate. As Lihao walked through the busy streets of Qingzhou, his thoughts turned to the undercurrent swirling around him. The city alive with whispers of people from distant places converging in anticipation of something great. The Li family's rise to the true dragon era was drawing near, and political tides were shifting. With each passing day, Lihao could sense the complexity of his path deepening. Was he simply a player in this grand game, or was he something more? His mother's mysterious origins and the dangerous individuals closing in on him made the journey ahead even more uncertain. But one thing was clear, his future would be shaped by broken promises and the choices he made. Standing by the river, he paused, the sounds of a lively game of chess filling the air. Yet his mind wandered far beyond the simple distractions of the moment. The stage was set for a clash of destinies, and the true test of power, loyalty, and selfhood awaited. In a peaceful yet intense setting, a group of seasoned chess players gathers, their attention fixed on a game that seems to be nearing its end. Lihao, standing at the edge, assesses the board and immediately sees the inevitable fate of the white player defeat. Despite the white pieces forming a powerful shape, they are cornered, unable to escape. There's a glimmer of hope if the white player dares to strike boldly at the black pieces, but the position is too dire for such a move. Observing the game, Lihao notices the black player, an older man, calm and composed, enjoying the evening breeze with a gentle fan as he awaits his victory. With a soft surrender, the white player admits defeat, but the surrounding spectators can't help but feel there was still a chance. Some voices regret the loss, others question the early resignation. Amid the discourse, the arrival of carriages signals the end of the match, but the puzzle of missed opportunities lingers in the air, leaving the crowd with thoughts of what might have been. As the crowd gathered on the bridge, the leading groomsman bellowed, "Move aside, all of you, clear the way!" His domineering tone sparked frustration, but when the Jiaolong battle horses hitched to the carriages came into view, the onlookers' attitude shifted. They quickly stepped aside, recognizing the power behind the procession. As the crowd parted, the groomsmen shouted again at a nearby chess stall, "Scram!" Though many murmured in discontent, they couldn't muster the courage to defy him. The groomsman's arrogance was evident, but so was his fear. He knew his master's influence was unmatched in Dayu. Only the black chess player, calmly waving his fan by the roadside, seemed unbothered by the noise. His two young companions, however, stood ready, their eyes flashing with intent. One of them cast a cold glare at the groomsman, who, in turn, barked, "What are you looking at?" Undeterred, the groomsman boasted of his master's power. But before he could finish, one of the young men moved with lightning speed, striking him hard across the face. The groomsman, taken by surprise, could only stagger back, his bravado shattered in an instant. The confrontation, brief but charged with tension, highlighted the simmering undercurrents of power, pride, and respect in a world where even the smallest wrong move could spark unexpected retribution. The groomsman's neck snapped as his head twisted to the side, instantly ending his life, and the crowd recoiled in shock. Some felt a dark satisfaction, believing that the vile man got what he deserved, while others couldn't help but feel sympathy, thinking that death was too harsh a punishment. But the young man, indifferent to the scene, entered the carriage without sparing a second glance at the body. Inside, a corpulent old man, startled, sat among crying women. The young man's cold, commanding gaze silenced them instantly, their faces paling in terror as though speaking would bring instant death. With chilling authority, the young man ordered, "Apologize, kneel, and then leave." The old man, trembling with rage and fear, tried to boast about his connection to the King of Yan, but was coldly interrupted by the young man's words. "Above our master's head, there is no one left." The tension in the air thickened as the young man warned, "Say one more word and none of you will leave." The women cowered, horrified, as the old man, crushed by the weight of the threat, slapped himself and knelt in humiliation. The young man stepped back and casually slapped the haunch of his warhorse, which, despite its vicious nature, was spooked and galloped off uncontrollably, causing bystanders to shout in alarm. The horse, in its panic, veered toward the river, dragging the carriage into the water, marking the end of a chaotic moment. The autumn air stirs as a splash echoes, drawing the attention of passers-by. Amidst this, a young man, calm and composed, returns to his position beside an elderly man, his expression unshaken. The old man sighs, lamenting the autumn waters of the river. As he prepares to leave, his gaze catches the young man, who is absorbed in the game of chess, silently placing pieces on the board. Lihao, with an air of indifference, does not acknowledge the imposing presence of the coachman or the carriage, his mind unbothered by anything but the game before him. With deliberate precision, he arranges the white pieces, forming a claw of a dragon that tears through the black pieces, signaling the inevitable end of the match. It's not about continuing the game, it's about releasing his frustration, breaking free from the weight of the oppressive atmosphere. The elderly man notices this bold move, and for a moment, even the young men standing behind him freeze, unsure of what just occurred. One is ready to retaliate, but the elderly man raises his fan, halting him. "Young friend, do you know chess?" he asks with a smile, to which Lihao answers simply, "A little." The game, however, isn't about victory. It's about choosing one's own path in a world bound by rigid expectations. The elderly man watched Lihao with a knowing smile, impressed by the young man's skill in the game. "Your moves are well crafted, reflecting the passion of youth," he commented, admiration lacing his words. Lihao, unfazed, acknowledged with a simple, "Youth has its folly." The man nodded then, his voice rich with a hint of nostalgia, invited him to sit and play a game. After a brief hesitation, Lihao agreed, setting aside his snacks and toys. As he moved, revealing his finely embroidered clothes, and the jade pendant swaying from his waist, the elderly man's eyes narrowed. His pupils sharpened with a flicker of recognition, a silent understanding passing between them. The two young men behind him exchanged glances, noting the significance of the jade, signaling the boy's mysterious background. Lihao, unfazed, quietly encouraged, "Please begin, senior." The elderly man's lips curled into a smile as the game began. Under the shade of the weeping willows, the surrounding crowd, once eager spectators, now kept their distance, sensing the weight of the moment and the rising tension between the players. The young man, seemingly no ordinary individual, had just executed a brilliant move, which made the crowd take a step back, sensing the potential danger. As the commotion of a horse and carriage falling into the water drew more onlookers, several tried to rescue them, throwing ropes to the scene. Meanwhile, the game of chess was heating up. Lihao's strategies were fierce, cutting deep and showing no mercy-ish move more brutal than the last. The elderly man, once relaxed, grew slower, his folding fan now folded as he focused harder, his brow furrowing with every move. The young man's aggression was overwhelming, his momentum unstoppable. The elderly man's expression became graver, fully immersed in the game, while his two young companions exchanged glances, their unease palpable. The game reached its climax, and the elderly man lost not just any loss, but a crushing defeat, one he had not faced in many years. His companion's eyes burned with anger, ready to lash out at the young man, but Lihao, unfazed, met their stares with indifference. The elderly man, still stunned by the loss, suggested another round, but Lihao, with calm confidence, declared, "Even if we play again, you will lose." The elderly man was taken aback, for no one had ever dared to speak to him with such boldness. The elderly man, sensing no malice in the young man, exhaled slowly to calm his rising anger and spoke with a softened tone, "Let's play again, and if you win, I will reward you with a small gift." The young man, Lihao, nonchalantly replied, "I lack nothing," but a playful chuckle escaped his lips. The elder, undeterred, smiled warmly, assuring him, "You will surely appreciate my gift." Lihao, with a touch of indifference, responded, "That's not certain. Besides, if I win, your attendants may intervene." The two younger men at the side stiffened, their eyes turning cold, but the elder waved them off with a gentle smile, saying, "They are merely ignorant, forgive them." Surprised by the elder's sincerity, the youths relaxed, their hostile expressions fading. Lihao, sensing the elder's genuine intent, agreed, thinking the earlier tension wasn't worth prolonging. The game began anew, and this time, their moves were more measured, even amicable. The elder, now more at ease, casually inquired, "At your age, why not seek glory and fortune in martial arts or the military?" Lihao, playing calmly, replied, "Fame and wealth are fleeting. The true goal of life is simply to be content, and I was fortunate enough to be born without the need to worry about such things." In the midst of a quiet game, a young man, Lihao, sneers at an elder's words, dismissing ambition as a mere title. The elder, caught off guard by the mature insight of the youth, questions his view of ambition and life's true meaning. As their conversation deepens, the elder speaks of dreams of soaring to heights, urging Lihao to consider the mountain peaks and their views. Lihao, however, is unmoved by such ambitions, revealing his preference for a simpler life of poetry, wine, and tranquility. Just as the exchange reaches its peak, another youth interjects, mocking Lihao for his dismissive attitude toward ambition, questioning how he could speak without ever experiencing such a peak. The elder, seeing the tension, sternly demands an apology from the youth, yet the youth refuses, his arrogance almost palpable as he questions the elder's authority to make such a request. The complex dynamics between the characters unfold, revealing a subtle clash of ideals, from the wild pride of youth to the wisdom of age, all wrapped in a moment of quiet tension and untold promises. The elder, with his frosty gaze, turned his attention to the youth, sending a chill down his spine. The young man, sweating, hastily apologized, fearing his words were out of line. The elder, unfazed, dismissed the apology with a mere wave, continuing the match. As the game unfolded, the elder posed questions about the great names of history, leading to a thought-provoking exchange. The youth, with a mix of curiosity and skepticism, inquired if those legendary figures were still alive. The elder paused, a silent laugh escaping his lips. The second game ended with Lihao's victory, his strategy far gentler, reflecting a deeper engagement with his opponent. Despite the elder's prowess, Lihao noted that there remained a gap between their skills. As the day came to a close, Lihao stood and prepared to leave, politely declining a gift the elder offered, confident that he lacked nothing. The elder, observing the young man's departure, chuckled softly to himself. In this world, who truly lacks nothing? He mused. Despite the young man's remarkable cultivation, the elder found him somewhat naive. The youth who had earlier apologized sneered at the retreating figure, dismissing the opportunity the young man had just let slip away. The elder, however, remained silent and gazed after the young man, a fleeting thought crossing his mind. If only this child were my son. He sighed and then remarked, his talent is beyond what you imagine. At just 14, to have mastered the chess Tao to such a degree and reached the 15 Li realm is astounding. The two youths fell into silence, acknowledging the magnitude of such an accomplishment, one they could not hope to match. As one of the youths teased the elder, complimenting his strategic mind across the world, the elder laughed heartily. Haha, indeed. But if I meet this young man again, I'll surely reclaim victory on the chessboard. With that, he walked away with a smile, satisfied and eager for the next encounter.